welcome back to another video. This is the channel Come On Dude and I am Ishaan Jain. So today will be our first chess video. As I mentioned in my first video that this is we are going to be playing a lot of chess and learning as well. So let's learn with me. So this is video number 1, the basics. So I'm probably going to make a playlist too every month, a new chess lesson, so we'll be learning things. Today is the basic, then opening, castling and all. We'll be learning all that. You will be learning with me, so stay tuned and let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing that we learn is the board. The board is divided into these blue squares, as you can see. These blue squares are usually black, they can be green too. So these are the black squares and these are the white squares, or dark and light squares. And all these numberings that you can see, these numberings actually represent these represent all of these lines. And these letters that you can see, these letters actually represent these files. The vertical columns are known as files and the horizontal rows are known as ranks. So let's learn about the pieces. So first we'll start with the basic, the pawn. The pawn are kept like these, like this, as you can see in the board. They are the starting pieces. They are kept in the first row, and all they are same as the black side. So the pawns they start on the 2nd and 7th rank. The pawns first move. They can decide to move 1 square or 2 square. There is a special rule on passant. I'll tell you about that too. So they can decide to move, but after the pawn has come 2 squares or 1 square, it can't move 2 squares again. It can't do that. So the pawn, this is a representation of the pawn. And if a pawn, just a second, if the pawn comes here, if a pawn, two pawns face each other, so the both the pawns are actually blocking each other's path, so none of them can move, as pawns can't jump over pieces. So that's the basic pawn structure, and that's the basic thing about pawns. Now I'll tell en passant. There's a special rule when this game is going on. So these moves are taken, and then this when this the white pawn is on the 5th rank, or in case of black, the black pawn is on the 4th rank. If a white pawn moves here, then you can capture this pawn by moving the pawn there. So you can actually capture it. For black, I'll just show you. If it is like this and then you capture the pawn moves like this, so when you the pawn can capture this pawn by moving diagonally 1 square. So let me show you another thing. These sequence of moves were taken. So if the pawn makes this move, and then the player who can en passant right now does not decide to en passant right now and is like, let me move this move and threaten the queen. They are like this. So after that, after they move that, they can't actually en passant if the black, just a second. So if black moves, for example this move, so now they can't en passant. It will not be allowed. As soon as they have the opponent has played this move, you can en passant, but after making another move, you cannot en passant. Okay, so that's the basic thing about pawns. Now we'll move to bishops. These are the bishops. The bishops, let me show you. The bishops are placed on the eighth, eighth rank and first rank. They are placed on the C file and the F file. The bishops can only move. Like for example, there is a bishop here, at the starting square. So that bishop, it starts on a white square. So if that bishop comes here, for example, the bishop cannot change the color of squares from at which it was standing. It will remain on that color throughout the game. So the bishop can move diagonally towards any side. The bishop can move diagonally. If the bishop was here, it will be able to move here. And for example, if there is a rook here, so the bishop cannot jump over the rook. The rook will be like an obstacle and the bishop can't. But the bishop can take the rook and the rook will be out of the game and the bishop will capture. So this is the basic thing about bishops. Now come knights. Knights are a very special move. Knights are a very special piece. Knights have a special jumping pattern, and knights can actually jump over pieces. So this is a knight. So knight basically make an L. They make an L wherever they go. Knight can move here. Knight can move here. Knight can even move here. They make an L everywhere they go. Every single move that the knight takes, it will make an L. As you can see here, all the places in red are where the knight can step, and all of these are two vertical moves and then one horizontal move away from the knight original position. And if a knight is on black, then on its next move it cannot go again on black. Its movement pattern makes it that the knight can only go on the white. And for example, if there are pieces like this in this following arrangement, the pieces are there. So knight can still jump here, jumping over the pieces. The knight does not care that there are pieces here. He can basically jump over it no matter what. So the next piece is the rook. Sorry, I forgot one thing. The placement of the knights is also on the 8th rank, on the B and G files next to the rooks. They sit in between the bishop and the rook. Okay, so now we'll talk about the rooks. The rooks are a very nice piece. They are very valuable. I'll tell you the points for each piece later in the video. So this is the rook. The rook start here. The rook can move in any direction, vertically or horizontally. For example, if the rook was here, it will be able to move here in this. So basically, if a rook is on d5, let me just tell you one thing. For example, this square, so it will be called d5. First we say the letter, then we say the number. So this square is d5. For example, the rook is on d5, so it will be able to move on the whole d file and the whole 5th rank. So, but if the rook is being blocked, just I misplaced that. So if the rook is being blocked, it cannot go here. It cannot jump over pieces like the knight. The knight is the only piece that can actually jump over pieces. Next thing that we'll talk about is the queen. Just a second. The queen is a very dynamic piece. As you can see, as we have learned about the bishop, the knight and the rook, the queen basically combines all of their movement. So first we'll talk about bishop movement. As we have learned, the bishop can move anywhere on its same color. Well, the queen can also do that. And then we have talked about the rook's movement. No, sorry, excuse me, but it does not carry the knight's movement. I said it by mistake. So it carries the bishop and the rook's movement. So as we know, the bishop's movement is diagonally any square or on its own color, and the rook's movement is on the whole file and ranks. So it basically is a very dynamic piece. Here I'll show you all the place it covers. We can also say that it kind of is like the king, but it can move in all directions. So basically it can go up. Oh sorry, I moved the arrows. It can go up, go sideways, it can go horizontally in all the directions. But the flaw with the queen, as we see with many other pieces like the bishop and the rook, it cannot jump over other pieces, so we cannot do that. And the queen's placement on the board is the d file on the first and 8th ranks. Okay, so let's talk about the most important piece, the king. So the kings actually have a rule that kings can never stand in a threatened area. For example, let's just take this bishop. It's the white king and the black bishop. So if the bishop is kept here, the king can this is the range of the king. I am outlining the range of the king. This is the range of the king, and the bishop controls this diagonal. So the king can't actually the king can actually just move on these squares. It cannot go on these two particular squares, because then it can be checkmated and captured. So it's not allowed to move the king like that. So the bishop controls these two squares and the king cannot. So that's why, and actually if the king was here, it can capture the bishop. The king captures all the opponent's pieces that are kept beside it. It can capture any of them. But in case, as we look here, the queen is next to the king, but the king can't capture the queen as the rook is right there. So if he captures the queen, it will get taken. So it can't. And the placement of the king is on the e file of the board on the 1st and 8th rank. So the kings actually can't even touch, because this basically makes a boundary. This actually makes kind of a boundary. When these two kings come for a pair, like they move these steps, then they can't move further. The king wants to go here, it can't, because then the other king is protecting it, and neither can this and neither can these pieces neither can this king cross the boundary until this king moves. Then This king still can't come here because it is in that king's radius, so it will move here. So these are the basic concepts about how the pieces move. So then we'll learn about the game. Basically, this, as I've told, this is the arrangement of the board, and the main places on the board. These are the 4 main squares. At the beginning, you want to learn how to control these squares. Some basic moves that control these squares are you can play your pawn here. So the pawn will basically control these 2 squares. These 2. You can even play the pawn here. This will control these 2 squares. And it will be very good if you put both your center these 2 pawns on the D and E file. These are called the center pawns. It is considered very good if you can put the center pawns on the 4th rank or 5th rank, because it controls all the spaces on the middle, which are really important. So these are the main spaces which are important. 2 of these are the pawns are standing on them, so it's covered, and these pawns, if any pawn comes here, so they can capture it. So they are very powerful. And then, like, a knight comes here, it stands here, then it can't. You control that space, so a knight can't do it. Okay, so now let's talk about the values and what kind of movement the piece offers. First is the pawn. As we know, on the board there are 8 pawns for every to every color, the black and white. There are 8 total 16 pawns, counting black and white together. So these are the pawns. So this pawn, it's a very small and fragile unit, and it really can't do much. So the pawn is basically considered to be like the pawn actually is only worth 1 point. It's only worth 1 point because the pawn really can't do much. But a special thing that we'll talk about in another video is promoting when the pawn reaches here. It's something special. We'll talk about it in another video. So the pawn is only worth 1 point. So let's move on to bishop. The bishop and the knight have same points. That is, I will try to be creative. That is 3 points. So the bishop and the knight have 3 points because they are dynamic. Like the bishop is really good. It can move, but it isn't as good as the other pieces, as powerful as them. So on the knight too, it can't really do many things. So they are considered as 3 pointers. So this is a rook, as we have talked about. So the rook actually having these capabilities, moving horizontally and vertically, allows it to checkmate with brother, whereas it is really difficult to do the checkmate with 2 bishops, and you really can't force a checkmate with the knights. So the 2 rooks can force a checkmate though. So the value of the rooks is, as you can see, I'm drawing here. The value of the rooks is 5. So the rooks are basically really valuable pieces in the game. We should always try to conserve the rooks and not sacrifice them really. So this here is the queen, as we all know, and the queen is a very powerful piece. It also sits right next to the king. So if you can guess the number that I am making right now, that's 9. The queen is actually worth 9 points. So it's actually really valuable piece, and you really don't want to give up the queen, let the opponent take the queen, because that will be very bad for you. So it is very nice to have the queen on board, and it's really a powerful piece. If you get the opponent's queen, like the queen just was here and it came here by mistake, didn't see your bishop. Even if, let me just put up a scenario, even if the queen is protected by a rook, tell me which has greater value in the comments, a bishop or a queen? I hope you have typed in the comments, but I'll tell the answer now. The queen has lower value than the bishop, so you should sacrifice the bishop for the queen. You will lose a bishop, but you will win a queen. The bishop is worth 3 points. That's not real nicely. And the queen is worth quite a lot of points, that is 9. So do you really want to not get a free queen? As you know, this is subtraction. 9 minus 3 is 6. You still get the benefit of 6 points, or almost a rook, or basically you can say a rook and a pawn. You get the benefit of a rook and a pawn. So these are the main benefits. So now and if you are asking me, and what is the value of the king, I'll have a simple answer. The whole game is the value of the king. I'm serious, the whole game. So if your king dies, you lose. So that's simple. Now we'll talk about the range. Pawns are a very short range piece, even though they can move 1 square, 2 squares in the beginning. After that, like let me just show you. You move 2 squares from here. Now to reach this point at the end of the board, it takes you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moves. Whereas so a pawn is a really slow piece and a small range piece. Actually, pawns don't really have any range at all, and just the thing is that they can capture on these rows if they're somewhere below that row. So it is the pawns are a very short ranged piece. And now we will talk about the bishops. The bishops are a long range piece. Basically any piece that can reach 2 corners can be considered as a long range piece. As you can see, the bishop being here is a long range piece. So you can even put a bishop in the corner, but that isn't advised. Like a bishop here or here, it can really cover a distance. The bishop is trapped here, there are pieces here threatening it. They zoom out from there to here easily, it can escape. But when it comes to the knight is a really short piece. You really don't want to keep your knight stuck in the back ranks for long. You really don't want to. You should want to keep your knights in the middle squares, because imagine your king is here, 2 bishops are coming to checkmate your king, so you really don't want that, obviously. So and your knight is over here. Now the bishops can or instead of bishops, let me take a rook. So they can easily checkmate you. Look here, 1, 2, 3 pieces, actually 4 moves to even come next to the king, whereas these can just one, maybe imagine if there's another bishop here, basically dead, the king will be dead. So you really don't want to keep your knights at the back. The best place to keep the knights actually is in these 4 squares, because from there, let me put up that scenario again. The rook there, maybe a bishop here. And if the knight is in the center, well, look how many moves it takes. 1, 2, or 1, 2. Like, that's so simple. So keep your knight in the center, and that confirms and tells you that knights are a short range piece. Now, as you know, the movement um, of the rooks, the movement of the rooks is actually, as you know, actually the rooks can cover 3 corners if they are at a corner. One, they are at themselves, and the whole 2 other corners. The only so they are actually really long range pieces and really powerful. That's why they have 5 points. So I don't need to explain really that much. Rooks can also get out of sticky situations, like a bishop pointing at it, and then maybe a rook with a rook. So it can really just zoom out of there, no issues, and not be trapped. Next, the queen. The queen is also, as I've told you, it's basically the combination of the bishop and the rook. So the queen is very easy. It can also get out of sticky situations, and it can also control corners, whereas while also controlling the corners, it can also control the files. So if we say that the queen is at a corner, if the queen is at a corner and there's nothing blocking it, so it can actually cover all 4 of the corners. As you see here you can see the power of the rooks, and here you can see the power of the bishop, and well, here the queen is just sitting. So it's really easy, and the queen is also long range piece. And as you expected, the king is, well, it can't really move at all. Doesn't have any special movements. Very lazy king. The kings are very lazy. So, and they basically are short range pieces, if you did not guess. So the kings are short range pieces. Now there are many things like openings and special rules such as promoting and castling that I'll tell you in later videos. So this is that for the time for the end of the video. So let's wrap it up with a quick thing. Comment in the comment box how many pawns are there in total. So bye bye, have a great